Nosauciet sporta veidu, kas jūsuprāt pēdējo 5 gadu laikā pasaulē ir piedzīvojis vislielāko popularitātes kāpumu. Tur mums ir iespēja tur uzrakstīt, un arī redzēsim, iespējams, ka tagad parādīsies visvēlāk, bet jums jānosauc sporta veids, kas pēdējo 5 gadu laikā pasaulē ir piedzīvojis vislielāko popularitātes kāpumu. Tas ir, jūsuprāt, futbols. Interesanti. Futbols, kaut kur pavīda rallijas, tenis, basketbols, pludmales, volejbols, upi, futbols ir boldā vislielākajā šobrīd 5 gadu laikā piedzīvojis lielāko popularitātes kāpumu. Tā varētu būt. Tomēr liels mārketinga naudas Champions League un varbūt arī kaut kādā saiknē futbols pie tā nākamā runātāja mums ļoti labi arī piediena. Pludmales, volejbols, tenis, rallijas, skriešana kaut kur pavīda, bet futbols jebkurā gadījumā numur 1 un līdz ar to man tas prieks un gods prezentēt jums nākamo runātāju. Startautiskā Eiropas futbola asociācija pārstāv 55 Eiropas Nacionālās futbola federācijas. Rīko izlašu un klubu turnīrus, nosakot plašsaziņu līdzekļu un sponsoru tiesības uz šiem turnīriem. Izšķirošais spēks pasaules sporta karaļa stratēģiskajā virzībā ir viņa fani un strauji augošais mārketings. UEFA fanu kustībai velta milzu resursus un uzmanību, liekot lietā visjaunākās digitālā mārketinga tehnoloģijas un tiešā veidā uzturot klātesamības sajūtu ikvienam futbola fanam pasaulē. Dāmas un kungi, sagaidām, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome UEFA marketing manager Noel Mooney.
How UEFA support our federations to grow sport across Europe. We have 55 countries, Latvia being one of them. So we go from Iceland to Kazakhstan, from Russia down to Israel. It's a big area. And our job is to grow football, basically, to market the sport and to get more people to fall in love with football. People look at Pogba, as you said, and the big stars that we have. But really what we're trying to do is get more people to fall in love with football, to play football on the streets. Hopefully Ghetto Games will do something like they did with the basketball, with the football, hopefully in the future. So what we're going to talk about today is growing European football. And what we would have to do is look as marketeers at the issues that face UEFA and European football. Number one is image of the game. So we would have had some issues with Mr. Blatter at FIFA. We would have had some issues at UEFA. And obviously the Neymar transfer, for example, was 220 million euros, is good for the player and maybe good for the club that sold him. But it's not always good for sports marketing because it sets off a trend of too much money in the sport. And that affects our image sometimes. People think there's too much money in football, they don't need marketing. Not true, we need lots of it. Participation is a huge issue for us. So in 2010, we had 24 million players. By 2015, we had 16 million players. So we lost a third of our footballers on the streets, if you will. And we face big issues like, if you take Istanbul, there's no pitches. There's very few football pitches in Istanbul because whatever way the planning is, they've built these kind of buildings everywhere. You can't play football, only indoor halls. So our job is not just about Champions League up here, it's also to work with governments and to work with federations to ensure that children have a place to play football all across Europe. Money, we have to keep creating revenue to keep paying for our pitches and for our facilities. And the last bit is what we'll talk about today, I suppose, is this revolution in digital. It's not a revolution anymore. We don't even call it digital at UEFA anymore. It's just what we do. It's how we communicate with people digitally. So we'll talk about that a bit today. So I lead a program called Grow. It's how we grow football in every country. And it's them 4 pillars I just spoke about. Image, participation, engagement, which is very digital, and revenues. Now, our studies would tell us they're all linked. So if the image of a sport is bad, the revenues suffer quite badly, whether that's from government or whether it's from private sponsors or whoever it is. Participation. Why is that important to UEFA? If a child plays football regularly before the age of 8, they're 12 times more likely to go to a football match, to watch it on TV, or to buy the jerseys, for example, the shirts. Therefore, our big mission is to get people to actually play the ball and feel the football and to enjoy it, because that will grow our audience of the future. When we work with federations, so for example, yesterday we were in Slovakia working with the federation. We show them the image. We do, with Kantar actually, our friends here, we do independent research on what people feel about football. So the research you saw this morning, we present to every federation. What do people in the country think about football? What do they think about you? Which is very important. We help federations do strategic planning. So to build a plan to hit all their objectives. Down here, we're talking about today as well communications. to build strategic communications, what are your key messages, who's your audiences and how you deliver it. This one is really important as well. Public affairs. How much do you get from government or municipalities to fund the sport? Federations can't do it on their own. They need support from government. So for example, in Austria, every year the Football Federation gets 15 million euros every year to develop the sport. I don't know exactly what it is in Latvia, but we work closely with federations to have a good government strategy to get more funding from government. And up here, brands. So these were new pillars we added because this is what the federations wanted and we needed separation of the brands. So Champions League is a very different brand to Europa League. Even though the same people work on the brands, they have a different voice, a different look and feel to one brand than they would to the others. And that's very important to UEFA, our home of brands. So what we've done with federations, we worked with 6 federations on this program, Grow. It worked very well. So last year we went crazy, we worked with 21 federations. This year 7, and we've kept building the model of Grow. So this is basically the model we use to grow football. We lead and support the growth of European football. What I loved about today's work was you started with research. And it's quite rare you see that at these conferences. You started with insights from Kantar. I thought that was great because it gives you an understanding early on of what people feel. We do that with all of our federations, and we use the best experts in the world we can for all the different areas to work with the federations to grow the sport. I'll move on quickly now, just one second. Just quickly on this. UEFA's vision for the future for our federations is, and this is interesting for other federations too, we are building a model at the moment to see where our best federations should be by 2023. It's called Football Federations of the Future. And our job is, the research you saw this morning, is to bring football up in every one of our countries in a very strong and quite a ruthless way, I guess, very ambitious for our federations, but we look at every area of the sport, participation, digital, where will it be by 2023, and then we work backwards. How much money is it going to cost? How many people do we need? And how do we support our federations to get there? That just gives you a simple idea of how we market the sport. Fan engagement. So on our social media channels, I think we have 120 million people engaging with us through our social media channels. Our web traffic is enormous, as you can imagine, but we're lucky because of the stars that we have. One of our players, Ronaldo, has more followers than we have. So we've got still a lot of work to do ourselves, but we are certainly trying. In sports marketing, with any of our universities, if we're talking to them, any of the people we employ, these are the areas of sports marketing we always talk about. So we would have marketing strategy and planning, of course. What is our plan to grow the game? The brands, our sponsorship plans. So do people here watch Champions League football? Yeah? A little bit. Would you know the sponsors of Champions League football? Could you name one? No, you're wrong. So Carlsberg, we sell our souls sometimes to anybody because Carlsberg sponsor the international football, which is the Euros. But for Champions League, we're partners with Heineken for a very long time. Adidas are a long sponsor, as you can see here, with us. We have Pepsi, we have MasterCard, we have lots of different companies like that, 7 actually, for Champions League. And it's a huge one for us, but it's how they activate the sponsorship, as you know, important to us. Market research, we discussed, how we promote. Merchandising licensing, this football here is quite interesting. You see on Champions League, it's the star is the brand of the competition. This is the only ball that we know of in the world that's actually stitched with the star in it. So if you look at the World Cup ball, or you look at any other football, they just kind of print on it, not this. It's done in a certain design to show the competition being the best competition and the star competition of the world. Small things, but they make a difference. We sell many millions of these footballs a year. I think it's about 6 million footballs a year we sell with that design. Segmenting and targeting and positioning our audiences. So understanding our audiences and having messages for different types of support is very important. We'll talk about digital marketing, and we'll talk a little bit about, you know, CRM, that's what you'd call it in business. We call it football relationship management because we don't call our fans customers. We try not to call them that. They are football people. So if you take, for example, the Latvian Football Federation, every child, referee, coach, fan should be in the database of the federation, and they should be able to build a direct relationship, what we call FRM, with each of these people to get them closer to the sport and more loyal. Media rights, 82% of UEFA's money comes from media rights. To give you an example, we sold Champions League and Europa League in Britain to BT Sport for 3 years, and it was more than €1 billion. That's a lot of money coming back into European football to pay for our clubs and for our federations. Fan engagement, we'll discuss today, and grassroots. How to get, like the ghetto presentation was exactly what I was hoping for. It was how to get grassroots involved. I loved the fact there was no smoking or no alcohol in the basketball stadium. That was a big thing. I've never seen that before, but we love it. We absolutely love it. So we'll talk a little bit about fan engagement now. So what does it mean? We define fan engagement of whether you win, lose, or draw the match of your team, that you put on an experience so good, like the ghetto games, that they want to come back time and time again. So this model for us is extremely important when we're working with our federations or with our clubs. What we're trying to do is connect with people who already like our sport, but new people. And we have got a team of extremely talented digital marketing people who connect with new fans, but also make the existing fans more loyal. That's our plan. It's quite simple. We want to reach more people, attract. We want to connect in a way that means something to them, because we're competing with so many people, and engage in a way that makes them want to come to a game or to do something with us. Two things at UEFA we always look at. How much do they value what we're receiving? So if we send out content like the ghetto game stuff, it needs to be brilliant. And you need to look at it and want to show it to your friends. If you can't do that, we don't put it out there. And how satisfied are they? When they see something by UEFA or by one of our clubs, do they look at it and go, that's even better than I thought they would do? So it's a constant race to improve what we do. Very simply, this is a wheel we use, how we work on our digital campaigns. We define the product very carefully. What is it we're trying to sell? We build our audience. We connect with that audience in a meaningful way. And we keep clear objectives. So if it's not hitting our objectives, which could be to sell more tickets, which could be to get more people to watch it on TV, we don't do it. So we've so much going on, we only pick things that are going to work for us. There's two things in fan engagement. One is on-site. What's it like at the stadium? And the other one is the digital experience outside the stadium. But what you must remember is they overlap. So for example, if your stadium doesn't have Wi-Fi, which we'll talk about in a minute, like if you're in a place, as you know, with children, and you can't get Wi-Fi connection, you've probably already damaged the product before you've even started. And we'll talk about that shortly. So a fan-centered club, any of our Champions League clubs, when we're working with them or discussing with them, they look at the fan journey. Why is the fan coming to the match? What is the journey? So if I'm coming to Latvia, for example, to a basketball tournament, what does the airport look like? I came through the airport last night. There was 2 huge pictures of basketball players. I thought it was great. In the library downstairs when I came through, there was a basketball hoop. I thought that was great. I mean, if you're marketing basketball, that's a really positive thing to see. So that's the journey. My journey here the last 2 days, I've seen 2 basketball players and a basketball ring inside downstairs. I think that's clever, really good. The key touch points. So when you go to, for example, a tube station in London to a match, does the tube station reflect it? When you walk from the metro station to the stadium, does that feel like the right experience? Does it feel like you're engaging them? If any of you have ever been to Dortmund, for example, in Germany, and you go from the train station to the stadium, it's a spectacular experience. You feel like you're going to something quite special, I would say. Understanding best practice. So we try and get our clubs to understand the best things that happen. So a simple example. If you buy a coffee in a football stadium, it needs to be as good as the one you buy in the local hotel or the local supermarket. If you pay €3 and you get cold coffee because it's a football stadium, we do things differently. It has to reach the standards of things outside. The bathrooms, for example. When I was a professional player, my landlady came to watch me play and she tried to use the ladies' toilets and she never came back again, because they were just in such a bad condition in a concrete jungle of a stadium. So we try to make sure that each of the touch points for the customers are right. Make sure you exceed the needs of the fans, I suppose, and that they feel valued. So football is quite different sometimes to basketball or ice hockey, because it's outdoors, and often in our arenas, like you'll have 50,000 people in a big arena outdoors. Ice hockey is indoors, I think, most of the time. And basketball's indoors most of the time. It's a little bit easier to get fans involved in the game. But that doesn't mean that in football we shouldn't work harder to get fans closer, to feel part of the sport. If ever you watch the big displays we have on Champions League night, the huge flags, the tifos, and the fans are really part of what's happening, they are far more happier fans than the ones. I'm an Arsenal fan. And I have to say, when I go to the matches, I don't feel so involved. I go watch the game and go home. Whereas other clubs across Europe are much better at how they engage their fans. Simple one, now I won't go through all of this with you, but we look at the fan journey of each person. This is before match day. So buying your ticket, what is that experience like? What is it like in terms of the build up to the match in terms of online and offline, etc. So we've different types of fans. We've got the ultras, I think you call it that, our main loyal fans who come to all the matches. We've people who just go to events. So I have two older sisters. They don't know much about the technical side, I have to say, but they love going to Ireland matches because it's a massive event. Go for a few drinks after it. It's great fun. That's what they go for, the event itself. And then, of course, we have VIP fans, the ones who come, whether they're from big business that work with us. They've got a different type of experience that we have to manage super well. So outside the stadium, we built a stadium in Dublin. It was 400 million euros, big investment. We did our first match against Argentina, and there was lots of complaints because we never looked around the stadium. There was no parking. We had never arranged parking for people. You just could not get parking. And there was a few roads from when you could get parking. There was no lights, so children were scared coming towards the stadium. We were bad because we should have checked the area around the stadium to make sure that the journey from the car park and the car parking itself was good. That sounds simple, but often many of our clubs and many of our federations don't think that through. So the journey to the stadium, etc., is very important. Then inside the stadium, what does that look like, of course? And outside, if you have huge queues, for example, trying to get out, or huge queues for coffee at half-time, there's something wrong. You haven't planned it properly. So we try and look at the full customer journey throughout the day to make sure that it's right. Now, here's some simple examples of how some of our clubs engage fans digitally. So you look here, all it is pictures of some of the Bayern Munich players, and they've left a spot where somebody can sit down beside them outside the stadium. So simple, but pictures like that get shared hugely, of course. Again, Bayern Munich, you can win a competition, and you can sit on a sofa watching the match beside the pitch itself. What a lovely experience for the people who actually win it, but also how much social media sharing and content is created because of that. Liverpool do a thing with junior fans where they can interview the players or they can write a match report and submit it online, and it gets published on the website. Again, for a young fan, how beautiful is that to have your match report put up on the Liverpool website. At Leicester City, who won the league last year, or 2 years ago, they've got a day where you can have your birthday party at the stadium, for example, for a group of kids under 10. They bring you to the match, you have your birthday there. Now, you have to remember, in marketing, we know that by the time someone's 7 years old, they've pretty much decided what they like. So if you're playing ice hockey particularly young, there's a really high chance you'll follow ice hockey through your life. Again with football. So if these people are coming with their friends having a special day before the age of 10, it's a really high chance they'll be Leicester fans for the duration of their lives. This is Swindon. It's a training exercise where they bring a group of kids to their training sessions. They let them work with them. They get a proper coaching session from one of the coaches. They have lunch with the players, all that stuff. That is brilliant for the... I wonder in Latvia, I don't know now, do the clubs do that where they bring school parties along to train with the players during the day? I think it could be interesting for them here. So just these are the kind of customers we think about. If I'm the marketing director of a club, I need to think about these different journeys. I'll give you a simple example again. When you arrive at the stadium, if you get a security guard that's looking at you quite intimidating and searching your bag and being quite, aggressive with you, what a terrible touch point for a stadium. We've seen it before. We've had grandmothers we've seen having their bags checked, babies' nappies checked for flares. Now, I understand we have security, but it's how you treat people. The security person at the front of the stadium is the ambassador for the club. They should be a host, not a security person as such. Trouble is almost never at our stadiums nowadays, to be fair, at international matches certainly. Therefore, they should be ambassadors and should treat people with respect. So our digital fan engagement, this is our philosophy at UEFA. This is how important digital is to us. So you've heard of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, yeah? So level 1 is where you need air, food, water. That is no longer the case because this is what we need first. In our stadiums, if we don't have Wi-Fi and a place to plug in your battery, people are leaving us. So we have to be super careful that we have these catered for in our stadia. We saw this in China, I think it was. So what we call is the attention economy. We are just looking for 5 seconds or 10 seconds of someone's time so they'll have a look at Pogba's goal last night. That's all we're going to get. Kids will not watch 90 minutes of football anymore. They'll only watch a couple of seconds of the best goals, and we need to react to that with the content that we create. So I think that's a good example of where we are. People aren't even looking at each other anymore. They're just looking here. If this happened today, this is what this could look like, by the way. I kid you not. The last selfie some of these people would ever have sent. Argentina, after a game. These are supposed to be all friends. I'm sure they are friends. I don't know if they're Facebooking each other, but they're not talking to each other. They are getting their messages out there really quickly because a lot of these players are brands. They've got their own sponsors, they've got their own stuff going on, and they're really interested in connecting with people. So our players have become superstars, never mind telly, from their own channels. As I said, you can check it. I think we've got players at 130, 140 million people following him, I believe. Live videos changed so much for us. Players now are filming themselves going to training. Now, I as an Arsenal fan, for example, my favourite player was Thierry Henry. If he filmed himself live on the bus, going to training, going to a match or something, I would love that. I'd absolutely love that. And I'd share it with all my Arsenal friends, of course. So they're building communities of stuff like this all of the time. So we need to curate that kind of stuff. What we have that nobody else really has is a passion for our sport. So TV money is coming down, down, down. What they pay for films is going like that. Audiences are getting smaller everywhere. Before, we used to all sit around and watch one TV as a family. It's all gone. I don't even have a TV anymore. A lot of my friends have no TVs anymore, especially the younger people. It's Netflix or it's something like that. However, for live football, for live Champions League especially, and for the European competitions, the money goes like that. Because on a Tuesday night or Wednesday night, if you walk around Riga and you look at the bars and you look at the big screens, you'll see our football pitch. And you'll see our players, you'll see Pogba, you'll see Ronaldo, etc. on the screen. Our audiences keep going up, up, up. So live sport has something that nobody else has. So that's something we're very careful of. Move on quickly here. What some of our clubs are doing is they understand that our players have become hidden. They don't go out anymore like they used to. So you won't see top international players like you used to on the street. When I was a kid, the Irish team, you could meet them anywhere. Now you don't see them anywhere because they're in a bubble. But what they try and do is bring them out. So this is Leicester. This is a player called Christian Fuchs, who Puma understood this kid was a big fan of him, and they basically sent him to the house. This is just before a match against Real Madrid, and he went for a kick around in the park with the child. Now, I don't have the videos set up, but you can have all the videos. I'll give them to Ivy or whoever it is who can send you the videos that we selected. But basically, he goes for a kick around in the park with the boy and has a chat with him. It's a lovely, lovely little video. But it brings human life to the player. And that's what we're trying to do. When the players won't go and get out in the streets as much as they used to, because they're scared in some cases, to work with media themselves, etc. They want to have something like this that they can control, and it shows the human side of the player. This is a rugby team in England. We really like this. If you buy the shirt, you can get into the team photo with the players. Now, you can imagine the amount of shares. If you can get into your favorite team, the team photo, just because you buy the shirt, how many times that's shared? It's hundreds of thousands of times. So remember I said about that 5 seconds you're looking for? Anyone in that Harlequins, which is the rugby team in England, who share that, they love that because it's the team being part of the community. England's women's team went to play in the competition last year, in the Euros actually, in Holland this summer. They got a band called Little Mix. Do any of you know Little Mix? Yeah? No? Little Mix? Would you love them? No. Okay, they're a very big kind of urban cool band in England. And they have a song called Salute. Okay, I don't know the song, I have to say, but I know it's called Salute because I kept seeing on my Facebook feed English girls going like, salute. So they were saluting the English team to go off and play in the Euros. Huge coverage that got in Britain because they're stars. These are modern stars in Britain, Little Mix. And they basically use pop stars to reflect football and to reflect well on football. This is a lovely little video of Stephanie Houghton, a top English player, talking about how she became a footballer. It's a cartoon. What I'm saying about segmentation and targeting is children won't watch long videos anymore. It's a short cartoon that's for young girls between the age of 7 and 11. They're used to watching cartoons anyway. We do it in cartoon form, so they like it and they understand what it takes to be a footballer. Our clubs as well, the players are getting more difficult to deal with generally because they've got their own agents and different things. This is the launch of Tottenham Hotspur's kit. And basically they ask the players a single question like here, who eats the most? Now they can put that out anytime they want. They don't have to do it on the same day. They do hundreds of these. And they can just keep putting out every day, have feeds going all the time. Now why that's important to international sport, the Latvian Federation would only have the players 6 times a year, 7 times a year maybe. So the clubs have them all the time. So when you get them in, you might only get 2 hours of time with the players. You've got to do things where you can create content for the months they're not here. They don't just disappear again. So a good marketing manager, a good digital manager maybe, will create content that will last for the months while the players are not here and can be used anytime. Simple examples, again, this is Faroe Islands. Tiny budget they spend on this, but they film all of the training sessions. Because if you film a training session for an hour and a half, you might just get 1 or 2 moments that are very special. This one over here is where someone kicks the ball the whole length of the pitch and someone catches the ball out of the sky, a particular skill. And it looks beautiful, and the players start laughing how beautiful it is. That little moment in the Faroe Islands is very special to them, and it's the shareable of that content. Using humor is very important for us digitally. So this goalkeeper here was playing for Minnesota. He went to throw the ball out, but the ball stuck to his glove, and he turned and threw it into the goals by accident. So he's really upset. He scored a really big own goal. So during the week, the club went to him and said, look, let's make a joke out of this. He shows the story of how he was making a jelly sandwich. I don't eat jelly sandwiches now, but I think in America they eat jelly sandwiches. And the jelly stuck to his glove before the match, and that's why the ball stuck to his glove. And that was huge coverage it got. I think it ended up on CNN as well. So that was the club, Minnesota, using a really bad moment and turning it into a fun moment. And that, I think, is what the modern marketing people are looking for, to create some personality, I guess, of the brand by using digital in moments like that. If I'm the federation, if I'm Latvia, wherever it is, this is Slovakia, for example, there's certain moments in the dressing room that happen, like you've beaten England, for example. If you're an Irish person, to beat England is quite a special moment. So if you beat England, if the cameras are there, 95% of stuff you couldn't show, but you'll find something in there that is very special. Now, if you get that right and you publish it at the right moment after the game, you could get huge viewership. I'll give you a simple example. We spent almost millions of euro to push women's football in Ireland, and it was moving quite slowly. And one day, someone had an iPhone, and they were just filming one of the girls' matches, and this player scored a spectacular goal. Her name's Stephanie Roach. It actually got into the top 3 goals in the world that year. It lost to James Rodriguez, and Ronaldo, I think, was in there as well. But someone just filmed it on their iPhone. It got 6 million people saw this goal all over the world. And what that did for women's football in Ireland was more than any of our investments. We got a call from the national TV station that said, she's become famous. Can she go on television on Saturday on the chat show? By chance, her boyfriend is a famous footballer in Ireland too. So her and her boyfriend went on TV. She was fantastic. She was able to communicate. She was able to tell the story of a frustrated footballer. My boyfriend gets all the money playing football, but I'm a better footballer. Shouldn't I get more money? And all that stuff, and all the stories of the hardship of women's. Then, she was so good, the national channel said, why don't we show the women's final as well as the men's final on the same day? So just from that moment of digital content that we put out like that, by having a camera there, we were able to create a whole movement around women's football that all of our investments, all of our marketing money could not do. So the importance of filming everything, basically, was there for us. And behind the scenes in football clubs, especially in federations, or basketball, whatever the sport is, you get sweet moments that connect with people and show the human side. This is Borussia Dortmund. Visualization is very important. People don't look at big content. This is just Dortmund saying, this is who we're playing this year. Map of Germany, here's the clubs we're playing, here's the date. A very simple way of seeing who we're playing the season ahead. Instead of just an Excel sheet with all the fixtures, it's just a cooler way of putting out your fixtures. I'll finish now quite soon, and you can ask me any questions you want. I'm a bit worried because nobody's asking any questions, are they, from the audience? You might have to ask some questions, I think.
Yeah, I got one question. Before that, I would appreciate great and exciting, authentic presentation. So valuable information for us all. Thank you for coming.
Welcome.
First of all, I got a question. It's my personal question. I read that UEFA got a partnership with car engineering concern Ford, but right now it looks like a partnership ended.
With Ford?
Yeah, Ford. Why is that? They went the cycling, Sky Sports, kind of little
so
smaller.
Ford, we're actually with Nissan now.
You're not noticing, but Ford was like...
We were with Ford for 20-something years.
Yeah, why this ended?
Well, what happens is, Champions League has got very few sponsors, so our idea with sponsorship is less is more. The big partners want exclusivity. So we stayed with Ford for 24 years. So, yeah, from 1992 it was. So maybe it was 20 years, sorry. The 22 it was, because it was, yeah. So it was, we go in cycles of 3 years. So we put a tender out every 3 years, who wants to take over the car category or the credit card category, whatever it is. And even if Ford pay less sometimes, a little bit less, we'll keep them because UEFA is very loyal to our partners and our sponsors. However, if an offer comes in that has a lot more activation, has a lot more money for the clubs, then we have to change. We have to present it to the clubs and say, look, Nissan have offered a bigger, more attractive package than Ford. Therefore, yeah, we present it to the clubs, we all agree it, and we change. So I would say what's happening in sponsorship, if people are interested in sponsorship specifically, because I spoke about digital today, our sponsors used to love the signs around the pitch and tickets. That seems to be all changing. The big companies are coming to us saying, okay, fine about the signs around the pitch. We're more interested in what digital content can you give us. So can we own Goal of the Week that we can put out to our own channels on Nissan or whatever it is? MasterCard might ask us for the mascots so they can film the mascots in the tunnel so they can put out them nice moments of Messi rubbing someone's head or something like that. So it's becoming all digital. Another change for us is, if you're talking to an airline like Etihad or Emirates or one of these big companies, they're more interested in how many flights can they sell to Dubai or Abu Dhabi. So they want to know how big is our digital database. So we invest a lot in capturing people's details. If you go on UEFA.com, what'll pop up is give your details. I mean, you must know this, of course, from your own organizations. There is an obsession with getting database because Facebook we don't own. We could spend millions of euros getting more people to engage with Facebook, but we don't own them. Facebook owns them. That's Facebook's system. And as you know, they're shutting down the algorithm so much, we can barely reach our fans anymore. I think it's 5% of people we can reach of all of our fans. And if you want to reach our own fans, we have to pay for it. We have to pay Facebook to reach the people that we brought to Facebook. So what we're all trying to do, I think, is to bring people from the social media into our own database. So when we meet with Nissan or Ford or whoever it is, we can say, actually, we can communicate directly with 25 million people. We've done some segmentation and profiling, and we can see that a third of them are likely to change their car in the next year, and there's a chance they could buy Ford. So you're actually selling data, and you're selling access to customers. Before it was branding, it's changing to digital now, for sure.
Thank you, Noel. There's some questions from audience. Are you playing football or did before, or is it just a job?
So very quickly, my story is I was a professional footballer for 11 years. So when I was small, all I wanted to do was be a footballer. So I played in Ireland and England for 11 years. And what happened was, the club I was playing for, the crowds were not so big, and I hated that. So I decided to study how would I get more people to come to the matches. This is many years ago. And I loved marketing so much that I threw down my boots and I decided to become the marketing director for the club. And what happened was I started with the club, and then the federation asked, would you become marketing manager for the federation? This is 11 years ago now. And then I became obsessed with getting more people to fall in love with football. That's very much what my life is about. It's not a job, it's very much vocation. So it's very much about, yeah, all of your time is spent understanding how can we get further and get more people to love the sport. And yeah, I joined UEFA 6 years ago, and it's a big organization. We have 650 full-time employees, plus agencies outside. We could have 300 or 400 more people working full-time, selling sponsorships, putting digital content together, working with the federations, creating the competitions, branding the stadium. So it's a huge organization, but we're very focused on, yeah, growing the sport, I suppose.
Thank you for your story. How do you market a team that is losing all the time?
Well, we have some interesting examples of that, by the way. So there's two interesting ones I'll give you. In Germany, for example, there's a club called St. Pauli in Hamburg. So Hamburg is the bigger club in Hamburg, but there's a second club called St. Pauli. Now, their brand positioning is very interesting. I'm not saying it's right or it's wrong, but it's like a rebel. It's a rebel brand. It's like a Red Bull type brand or something. It's a bit different. They've got the skull and the bones, the pirate logo. They're anti-establishment. So, for example, my brother living in Ireland is a St. Pauli fan. I asked him why, and he just said, it's just cool. They're just cool. It's like the ghetto games. It's just cool. You'd want to go along. If you're a hipster or you're ghetto-minded and that stuff, you just go. So St. Pauli sell the third largest amount of merchandise and licensing in Germany. They're in the second division, and last week I saw they got beaten 4-0, and yet their revenues go up and up because they've built a brand that is more important than the football team. Second example is Scotland. Scotland's national team have not qualified for a tournament since 1998. Long time. Their crowds continue to go up because it's a culture they've built. It's a lifestyle almost. A Scotland fan, the men, they wear the dresses with no boxer shorts under it. So yeah, they drink a lot, fair enough, but they have a culture. So I'll give you an example. Scotland have a supporters club of 35,000 people, and they can't sell any more because it's linked to ticketing. And if they sell any more memberships, they will not have enough tickets for the stadium. As I say, they don't win a huge amount of games, but the desire to be part of that movement, and that I think is what Ghetto Games is. It was like a movement of some sort. It was like you've hit something. So if I'm living over here in a difficult area, in a difficult estate where my friends are smoking and drinking and taking drugs or whatever it is, then you almost get admiration, I think, from the people around you who say, actually, this person didn't choose that. They chose to do something different, more responsible with their lives. In Scotland, it's the reverse. You get rewarded for drinking a lot and for wearing dresses. So maybe it's a different type of movement, but it's a movement and people love being part of it. So we see quite a few examples of clubs and federations that don't win, but yet they grow their markets. And another thing is reaching out into the community, I think. So a football club should be more than a football team. If you stay a football team, you tend not to grow. But if you reach out into the community, so for example in Latvia, just say I was the marketing director of one of the clubs here. There's probably hundreds of little clubs and schools and places where young people hang out. The job of the marketing manager then is to link the football club with each of them schools. So when I used to market my league back in Ireland, I would work with the clubs. We would go out to the schools, we would go to the hospitals, we would meet as many people as we could, we would invite them to the games, invite them to be part of the football club, and I suppose to be in the media as well, showing that you're part of the community. So even when the team loses, it's not the team that loses, the community loses. And they want us to get better, and they'll contribute more by ticket sales, whatever it is. So really, you're trying to create a movement rather than a club.
It's a movement, tradition, it's kind of positive sector, I know. Jan is asking, how do you see the future of Latvian football? You said that you work also with the Latvian Federation for Soccer.
Yeah, I think that this area, I don't mean Latvia now, I think the Baltic region has an interesting challenge, I would say, because you have to remember, with football, if we go to Germany, Spain, most of these big Europe, Italy and that, England, football is just so far ahead of the other sports. Like, it's almost you're guarding against complacency. So you're trying to say we need to work harder, and they say, but why? We have, in Germany, we've got front page, we've got back page, we've all the media sewn up, we've got huge money. What do we need? We've got 16 million people playing football, and the other sports are but we can never get complacent. In the Baltics, that's not the case. It's a very interesting challenge for us. We've just built a sports index at UEFA, which measures the strengths of all of the sports in each country. So this is a bit of marketing. This is a secret now, so turn off the camera. So on my wall, I can see the strength of each sport in each country, and I can see the challenges that each country faces. The problem that we have is capacity. So we've just done 30, I showed you very quickly earlier, we've just done 37 countries in 2 years. I think that with Latvia, we'll work a lot next year, I believe, because we're just working chronologically through each country. I hope that next year we'll really get to work with Latvia. Estonia, we're about to do something quite big with Estonia. The Super Cup goes to Estonia next year. The winner of the Champions League and the Europa League plays in Tallinn next year. And I think this region, we could push even harder, I think. I think we could work harder with governments. I think we could work harder with our federations. And that's what we will do over the next couple of years. So maybe you'll invite me back in 2 years and I'll show you the work we've done in Latvia to work with the federation to improve football here. But it's a very interesting challenge for UEFA, and I think that we have to do more, actually, in this area.
It's kind of challenging, but we see the bright future together, I guess.
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
I think so.
Somebody, please, questions in the audience live right now for Noel? Okay, then thank you. Appreciate it. Applause, lūdzu. Noels Mūnijs, really, really good. Thank you very much. I know, actually last week we opened the European Sport Week, and kind of historical moment. So we, for the first time in the heart, in the center of Riga, beside the Freedom of Monument, we played soccer. There's some after movie we made, so please, on the screens, something interesting for you, I guess. Tad pagājušajā nedēļā mēs Eiropas sporta nedēļas atklāšanā spēlējām pirmo reizi futbolu pie Rīgas pieminekļa, un man solījās, ka tūdaļ mums aizies video, tad filmiņu par to, kā mums gāja.
Neviens sporta veids nevar iztikt bez masveidīgas un labi organizētas amatieru sporta kustības. Un es domāju, ka šī nedēļa ir kā tāda šī amatieru kustības sludināšana, ka mums katram būtu jāatrod kāds sporta veids, ar ko nodarboties ikdienā un piekopt tā teikt veselīgu dzīvesveidu.
Un tas, ka mēs jau otro gadu tieši šeit pie Brīvības pieminekļa atklājam Eiropas sporta nedēļu, emocionāli šis mirklis ir ļoti, ļoti tāds saviņojošs.
Pie šī svētā pieminekļa, ja notiek futbols, tas jebkuram cilvēkam iedod vienkārši tādu sajūtu, ka tas ir kaut kas īpašs.
Katram šīs nedēļas laikā būs iespēja atrast sev piemērotu sporta veidu, sev piemērotu nodarbi, pamēģināt ko jaunu.
Un vispār Eiropas sporta nedēļa mērķis ir veselīga Latvija, veselīga, produktīva, priecīga un gal laimīga. Un izmēģinot dažādus sporta veidus, izprotot sevi, man liekas, tas ir īsākais ceļš uz to.
The active football marathon. That's something you thought about. Yeah. Aplaus video! Eiropas sporta nedēļas atklāšanas pasākums.